Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're finally here to take a look at the new 3.0 software that a lot of people were waiting for on the Rec Room World's virtual pinball machine that we have here. I've had this machine for a while. I got the 8.0 version that you guys see me do a review on. Then I also had VPin come out, if you guys know him from YouTube, and he installed the OLED upgrade on mine, which made this machine so much better. And we've all had this, and you can get a piece of software with it from Rec Room World directly that was their 2.5 software, but they promised all of us that when 3.0 was ready, that they were going to send it all to us little by little. Well, I did get mine. Actually, I've had mine for a while, to be honest. I've just been super busy to finally get to it. Just so you guys know, there is something we're going to be talking about at the end of this video as well. I was using this whole entire time, I wasn't using the 2.5 software. I was using Super VPin, which is somebody in the community who is part of the Facebook group who loves this machine as much as I do and love the community, that he actually makes his own drive specifically made for this, and he really does a really good job, and it's monthly updates. But we'll talk more about that at the end of the video. But just know Super VPin's what I was using before, so that's kind of what my comparison is. Of course, I also did use the 2.5 version that came directly from Rec Room Worlds for a little while, so I do have some reference there. But we're gonna take a look and see if this drive is as bad as a lot of people have said, because I've seen some reviews out there where you have one person saying everyone's lying, that it's not as bad as everyone's saying, that he has no problems and blah, blah, blah. And then you have the other side of the fence where people are like, it's terrible and I can't believe they released this and blah, blah, blah. So I have no ties to this. I have the Super VPin drive, I have this drive. I will show you guys exactly what it's like. I'll tell you guys what I do like, what I find, what I don't like, what they should have done better, all that stuff. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
So the first thing we want to talk about here is the new menu system. That's what they made a big deal about, that they were working on with this 3.0 software. It took them a very, very long time. I'm actually going to lower the volume for now. It took them a very long time to basically get this software out, like over 2 years. I think it was 3 years actually, from the 2.5 to this one. And one of the big things that they said is that they were not only adding, over 1,000 new tables, of course, but they also were creating this new menu system for the actual drive. Now, one of the things that people talked about right here off the main, that I saw some people talking about in a video, that I wouldn't obviously have noticed, but now that I know about it, now it's hard to not notice, because once you know, you know. And I'm gonna bring you guys a little close to this so you guys can see it. When you're looking at this main menu, like I said, I do like the main menu idea. I like the fact that they have these sitting right here, and you see pinball tables are on here, arcade games, music video, jukebox, how-to manuals, and then you could shut down right from here. We'll talk about more of those in a second. I do like the way that the system's laid out and the graphic that's being used, the way that looks like in there, where it's insert coins. All of that looks good, in my opinion, with no issues. And if you see any washout, that is not the monitors, that is just mine. Now remember, I'm using an OLED monitor. This is the LG C4 48-inch. I put this in here with the help of VPin myself. This is the same thing that, this is something that I put in here myself, so just know. Now, one of the things that I didn't notice before when I first was using this, because it's so hard to not pay attention to it, because you're sitting at the main menu and you just pick pinball tables because that's what you know you're about to play, or the music video jukebox, or the arcade games, or whatever the case may be. But there is a small detail that, that's probably something they should have fixed, which is here in the corner, you can see that there is a slight white line that's going across, almost like the image does not fit to the edge right there, that somebody pointed out here on YouTube. Now, yeah, is that the biggest deal that I wouldn't even have noticed? No, obviously not, but it's those attentions to detail that people are looking for when you wait for something for 3 years. So obviously that is something that they should have caught and been like, hey, let's stretch this out to make it look better, as opposed to having a white line that's going across from here. Now, one of the other things I've seen people talk about, because a lot of people are using OLEDs on here, is the fact that this doesn't change. Even though the background is changing all the time, the actual menu system here doesn't change. Now, as long as you're not a crazy person and you're not leaving this on the main menu for 8 hours a day for a year, you're not going to run into burn-in issues just because, one day you accidentally walk away from this machine and you leave this on the main menu, and then you walk away to the rest of your house and you forget about it at a party, and you're like, shit, I left this on my OLED for 8 hours, now it's dead. That's not going to happen. You know, there's precautions on the OLED monitors with the LG that pop up that you use your remote for to clean it out. There's the fact that like 8 hours on a single image is not going to do it. As long as you're not sitting here, if you do that the next day, make sure you actually go in and change the image. Make sure the image is not always the same. I think a lot of people make a big deal about OLEDs burning in, but like they've come a long way from where they used to be. You would have to sit on this exact image for hours and hours and hours and days before that image burns in without seeing anything else. So as long as the image is changing and you're not leaving it for days on end on the same thing for a year, you'll be fine on the OLED. So let's relax a little bit on making it seem like these OLEDs are going to burn in after 4 hours of being on the same image, because that is not the case. I've had OLEDs in my house for a long time. It's a little dark in here, but I have an LG OLED over here. I have another LG upstairs. They have no burn-in. I've had them for like 5 years, and that one's used for an arcade system as well with no issues on burn-in. So, but you do need to be careful to leave the same image on here for days and days and days all the time. But it doesn't mean that if you leave it here for 8 hours and you forget one day that the world's coming to an end. That's all I'm saying. All right, so let's go ahead and get into these what this stuff is. So we'll come back to pinball tables here at the end. Let's go into arcade games here. So if you go ahead and go into there, like I said, this little main menu, you hit the fire button, and then it brings you into the arcade games. I do like the intro screen there. It has a nice little flashy look. This is where you can use a controller, the 8-bit dock controllers that you can use that are on here, so you can use that. This is the marquee that goes in the background, which I really like that they have something on the back glass there, so it's not completely empty. And then they also have the marquee on the top there, which does look good. So when you're looking at these games here, like I said, I do like the way that they look. They scroll through and kind of change the games as you're kind of standing here. The marquees stay at the bottom. The names of the titles of the game stay at the bottom. You got the marquees there on top and also on the back glass. So not something I'm going to use my machine for. They have a bunch of different games on here, vertical games that make sense to play on here, but I have a vertical machine in my house, so I don't really have a use case for it. But it's still nice that it's here, and it is something that they added that I think works well. You do have to use, one of the things that they did say is that only player 1 works when you use like the 8-bit dock controllers that they recommend, and there's an issue with player 2 or something. I don't have those 8-bit dock controllers to confirm, but that is something that they said that was an issue with player 2, that only player 1 works. And reconfiguring the controls, and that's because this is the way CoinOps works. This is not something that Rec Room World did or something, but with CoinOps on here, because CoinOps is set up in such a fashion that every time you change the controls, so if I whip out my keyboard right now and I were to change one of the controls for the games because I'm using an Xbox controller instead, or an arcade stick, and it's not, and you have to go into MAME and set it up with tab like you usually do, if you make any changes that CoinOps isn't already defaulted to, it's not going to save, because the next time you go into that same game, the controls are going to be wiped and go back to default. So you have to use like the 8-bit dock controllers or an Xbox controller, because that's what it's thinking that you're going to use with the CoinOps. That is not Rec Room World's fault, technically. That is something that the way CoinOps is built, and you know, the way that they set up these controls. So that is something you got to dig into the files and fix yourself if you're going to do that, depending on which controllers you're using. That's probably why Rec Room World's recommended those 8-bit controllers. So we can go ahead and exit from here, and it goes back and flashes back into Windows for a second. You saw Windows there for half a second, and then you're back here at the main menu. Now, the next thing we have here is Music Jukebox, and you can see that you have different playlists that you can make on here. This is something else that I use a little bit. I don't use too often, just because I don't play music on here very often, because usually when this is on, someone's at a party, and I have a party with a bunch of these machines on. Usually someone's playing this machine, or I have it sitting on the pinball machine. I usually don't have it sitting on the jukebox, but it is here. You can launch the jukebox. I don't want to get copyright, so we're not going to do that right now. But you know, you can create different playlists. You can launch the jukebox. They have a bunch of different songs on here. They are taking up hard drive space, which, you know, is how you do this jukebox that they have set up. And they have, you know, I don't know how many songs. There's a lot that you can scroll through in a variety of different genres, and you can create playlists and do whatever you want. So just know that option is here if you want it. Now, going back to the main menu here, you also have the how-to manuals. Clicking on the how-to manuals, I do like that they added this, because what this does is when you go into the main menu, you have introduction, quick start video, hardware overview, how-to manual, how to add and remove tables and songs, and VR pinball and how to use it, the sound settings, troubleshooting. So this is a great idea. And it gives you a little, you know, how to do it and stuff. This is a great idea because this will let people know how to do things. So if you click on like the VR pinball tables and you hit the fire button, the video on the back glass will start playing here in a second on how you actually, you know, set this up, and it plays their video. So you can hear it. I do have the volume obviously lowered.
I know a lot of you guys don't realize this, but VR gameplay is going to improve the three-dimensional aspect.
So there you go. So their video plays right there. And then if you want to pause it, you can press the fire button to pause the video, and then it plays. Or if you want to, and then you can keep scrolling if you have the video paused, and then you can click another one. So great stuff that's all here. I didn't go through every single video to make sure everything is accurate, to be fair, because I know how to do most of those stuff if I needed to. But it's awesome that this is all here, and you could watch their videos and how-to guides on all of that stuff being here, which is good. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the whole point of this, shall we? The pinball tables themselves. So if we go ahead and open this up here, you can see where this launches and it goes right into this main menu that we have here. They have a lot of new categories. They have a lot of new tables, of course. If you click on all games, which is the first thing that shows up on here, you can see we now have 2,132 tables. I think they had like 1,200 or so on the original 2.5 drive, if I remember correctly. But that's, you know, they have new categories. They, of course, have recently added. They have some new, like, graphics and stuff that they have on here. You can see how this is all set up. You know, they have their top 100, which is the, you know, top 100 on here. They have highly recommended. From what I remember them saying, highly recommended is what tables Rec Room World recommends to you that are highly recommended for you to play. So the top 100 is technically the top 100 based on like the community, based on like what everyone else thinks is the top 100 on like the virtual pinball world. But the highly recommended is a curated list of what Rec Room Worlds themselves thinks is recommended on these tables. So you got that on there. You got playlist. You got non-flipper games. You have your adult section here, which is password protected. Though apparently some of the horror tables from the adult section, even some nudity, got snuck into some of the other categories that shouldn't be there, which is obviously something that was missed. You got VPin Workshop. You got JP Sal's collection here, and this looks awesome on the OLED. Like I've already talked about how good OLEDs look on here. Manufacturers, some of these are new, some of these have been here before, but some of these categories were recreated. I'm just scrolling through so you guys can see all the artwork and how they kind of all look and what you guys can expect. Recently played, most played, and random, and then you got VR sitting right here, and then of course your favorites that you kind of scroll through, and then we're back to old games. Now, of course, if we go into playlist, then you have more. You have your kids tables that they've had before. You got the horror section I was referring to before. Then you also have movies, music tables, original, racing, sci-fi tables, sport, TV tables, and that's all those playlist categories. Now, as far as how everything is set up here, I do like the way everything is set up. I don't have any issues with the menu system. It's awesome that we have over 2,000 tables now to play. You got a lot more tables to play, but the problem is that there are some issues with some of the way that these are set up and what they did, because some of them was missed during QA, and after waiting 3 years, people want this to be perfect, and it is definitely not. So let's go ahead and start off by going into their top 100 area right here. Now, one of the things that I don't like that they did, but this is more of a preference, and to be fair, everything I'm going to talk about in this video that they did that I don't like, you could technically turn it off. You could technically fix all this stuff yourself, but obviously the whole idea is that you shouldn't have to fix this stuff. But obviously, if you know a little bit of how to use virtual pinball and visual pinball and going into the settings, all this stuff can be fixed, but you shouldn't have to, is kind of the point. So when you're scrolling through these top tables, you would think that all of these tables are, you know, highly curated because it's the top 100. They probably looked at these and made sure that they launched, make sure that they're perfect and they don't have any issues and stuff like that. And what I don't like is that you have two of the same tables sitting in here. So you have this one here from Capcom, which is like Ray's backlight mod. And then you also have the next one over here, which is like the Capcom version of the same table, which I personally, you know, don't like. I don't need to have the same table in here twice. I don't need to have 2 different versions. This is the top 100. Give me the best version of what the top 100 is. If that's the VPW, more than likely, then leave that one on here. But I don't need duplicates of like all of these games to be on here, you know, twice, just taking up space. This should be the top 100 with just no, but that's a personal opinion. That's not something that they necessarily messed up. I just wouldn't have done it that way. I want the top 100 to not show duplicates of some of their games. Like you have the VPW one here for Diner, and then you have the original one here too. But again, that's a matter of preference, not a matter of them doing something wrong per se. That's just a matter of preference. One of the other things that I wish that they did, and again, this is all matter of detail and stuff like that, is that when you're scrolling through these, a lot of the times you're going to have things that like, they look like this as far as the image with the circle with the image in there, but then you'll come across other ones that look like this, and you know, they're different ones and stuff like that, so they're not like uniform, I guess, is if that's what you want to call it. If that bothers you, yeah, there's some things that are not exactly uniform that may actually cause an issue, like to some people, because they're not uniform. Like this is another one. Like some of them have like the circle around them to kind of highlight them and kind of have different artwork. So they're not, you know, exactly done the same that they could have done. You can see as they come up what I'm talking about there. If that's something that's going to bother you, that is definitely something that you're going to notice as you're scrolling through these tables. Now again, here's 2 tables again. Ghostbusters Stern 2016, the Pup Night mod. And then you have the next one that's exactly the same. And you can see the pup pack is not like changing up there. You know, if this really does have a pup pack, then that pup pack should be listed up there as being like a preview, so you know exactly what you're about to get into with these tables. That's something else. You know, we're gonna go ahead and launch this one first to see if it actually looks like it's supposed to here. Now we're launching these tables full cut. You can see how it's happening. I know that some people talked about that green thing that kind of splatters on their PC. I have not noticed that. We're gonna see if that happens on mine and how often it happens. So you can see this one has a pup pack. So what should have happened, and that's again an attention to detail, is on that preview screen, this should be what's on the preview screen, because you should be using Visual Pinball and recording this screen for 10 seconds. So you know what you're gonna get into when you're getting into this table. Now, once you're in here, the table looks great. Ghostbusters, it's formatted correctly and stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and actually lower the volume of these songs because we're gonna get copyright struck like crazy if we leave these songs playing. But it looks great on the OLED. The table looks fine and everything plays the way it should on this table. I don't have any issues with this one. If I go ahead and put in a coin and I hit start, you can see it plays and you can see the ball sitting right there. I can go ahead, hit it, and obviously I'm doing this one hand, so this isn't going to go well, but you guys get the point. I mean, it's working the way it should. It's got the volume and everything for this table, and yeah, of course it goes to the left side each time. This is not a gameplay video. Like I said, I'm just showcasing some of the things that are on here. The flashers are going off, all the stuff that should go on. You got the topper up there, and everything that should be going on is going on right now. But like I said, it's the attention to detail when it comes to because we're talking about not the gameplay themselves, because that's got nothing to do with Rec Room World. The gameplay is all done by the table creators, and again, like usual, shout out to all the table creators who make these fantastic tables for us that we can play on these virtual pinball machines. We're talking about the menu system, and as you can see here, this looks slightly different than what is shown on here. Now I just hit exit. There's the green bar thing that they were talking about. So it is something that happens every once in a while. So you can see it now. That green thing disappears. Shouldn't be happening. I've never seen it happen on my Super VPin drive that I've had before, but just saw what that green stuff that people were talking about was there. And this is unedited, and you can see I'm talking and not doing anything. So here's the next Ghostbusters. So this Ghostbusters is probably that backlash, and it doesn't have the pup pack. Like this one says Pup Night Mod. That's why I knew it was a pup pack with the video on the backlash, but it should have that video on the backlash. That's how it should be done. Again, attention to detail. So if we go into this next one here, the table looks like it's exactly the same. It's got a different loading screen on this one. You can see it flashing and stuff like that, and it's loading up. And we're going into this table. We're going into Ghostbusters. And we're going to let this load here for a second so you guys can see what we're talking about. I'm trying to make sure that we're trying to make this as uncut as possible. Of course, I'm going to have to do some editing and cut my noise out of not doing anything. But I'm trying to make this unedited as possible so no one claims that things were cut out or things were left out on purpose or whatever the case may be. And you can see this table just crashed. So speaking of, cannot load SPA. So that's what happens. I know it's a little blurry on there, but just got an error message. The whole back glass crashed, and you got that on there. And that is on that. Now, is that going to happen every time? Well, we're about to find out, because I'm going to figure out. I'm going to grab the keyboard, of course. We're going to have to grab the mouse. There it goes. We're going to have to hit OK, because there's no other way to do anything about it. As a matter of fact, it seems to be completely frozen up on my screen. I can't hit OK with my mouse or anything. So we're going to have to bring up Windows here. Now we can hit OK. Had to hit the Windows key on the keyboard for whatever reason. So, and there's the error on the script where it's saying object required controller. So we're just going to go ahead and stop that. We're going to go ahead and click out of that. Now, of course, you're going to have to, you see that you can't just restart the menu system, because you still have Ghostbusters sitting there on the back glass. So you're going to have to open up Task Manager and make sure that all the PubPack windows are all like closed. Otherwise, you're going to have issues with this thing. So you're going to have to go into here and kill, you know, the menu system, because right now, if I hit anything, you can see it's still sitting up there. So you're going to have to go in to Task Manager. I'm not going to be able to show you this in the dark right now because the focus is not going to be great, but you can see the pinup menu. You're going to have to close this out. You're going to have to close the pinup player as well and end that task out, so all of this stuff closed. You're going to have to close out the pinup display, or you could do the simple thing if you want and just log out and log back into Windows. That's another thing you could do. But if not, you close all that out, then you open up the pinup popper like icon that's sitting over there. So it relaunches the menu, and now obviously we're back into pinup popper with the actual menu. Now, the question is, that game crashes every single time. So we're going back into the top 100. We're going to go right back into that Ghostbusters table. Now, the first one that we played, obviously, is, you know, the Ghostbusters one that we played with the PubPack loaded up just fine. This Ghostbusters, though, Ghostbusters Limited Edition 1.2, is the one that we tried before. We're going to try it one more time so we make sure. No cuts, no nothing. And you can see it's going to load again, and we're going to see if it was just a random error message. And nope, there it is again. There's the error message, could not load SPA. So this table came broken. And the reason that I'm surprised about that is not necessarily just because it's on the top 100 per se, but it's just because Ghostbusters has always been a table that Rec Room World talks about that everyone needs to play. But for whatever reason, and this is what I'm talking about, so now you're going to have to go through that Task Manager each time, but you could also just log out of the system. So you could do this any way you want. You could hit sign out over there on the corner and then just sign out of Windows, and then it's going to bring you at the sign in screen. And then you could just do this and then sign back in. It just depends if you want to go through Task Manager and find that stuff yourself, or just go in there and, you know, launch this again, and then it will in a second relaunch the main menu on its own, and then we'll be back on here again. But it is ridiculously annoying that tables are crashing. And like I said, the main reason that Ghostbusters annoys me is because they know how popular Ghostbusters is. They advertise that Ghostbusters themselves. And they talk about how good that table is. It's literally part of like one of their main tables that they always showcase. So how would you not have checked Ghostbusters to make sure both versions that you put on the top 100 are working? Obviously, it makes no sense if you do that. I can't believe that that's something that like went past their QA for as popular as that table is. And I haven't tried every single table on here. Obviously, there's over 2,000. If that table is doing it, I know there's more because other creators out there have already found other tables that crash as well. So let's go into their highly recommended. This is their games that they talk about that are highly recommended by them. And this is the ones that they say that you should play, right? So we're going to go into here. We're going to take a look at this. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Stranger Things, one of my favorite tables on here. Let's take a look at the Stranger Things Orbital 2018 version. You can see what the back glass looks like on here, right? And you can see that it's playing a PubPack back there, which is exactly what that Ghostbusters table should have done. It should be showing you a preview of that, like this one is doing. So you go ahead and open this up. Why do we get a Dig Dug showing up on here? somehow an image of Dig Dug got opened. Again, Stranger Things is such a popular table. How is it that that's getting past QA? And I'm not even going into the more obscure tables. I'm going into my favorite tables like Stranger Things and Ghostbusters and stuff. Obviously, when you get in here, most of the time it's fine, but even some of the... I'm not well versed in the POV stuff. I know that, like, it's not perfect on here because sometimes it's missing some of the edges and stuff like that. This one seems to be fine as far as Stranger Things goes. But there is like a little bit of a cutout here. Yeah, you can see it. See how it's cut out? Where there's like a flash around here and the image is making it seem like it's cut out on there. That is not how this table usually looks like on the Super VPin drive. You can see, you know, this does not look like this. There's not like a flashing bar at the bottom of this, making it seem like the virtual pinball is not stretched out enough. Can you fix this yourself by hitting the F2 key on the keyboard and fixing the point of view so everything is perfect? Yeah, but again, not stuff you should have to do. But this is the, you know, Stranger Things table that you have right here. It looks fine. Obviously, it's the way it's supposed to look. If you go ahead and exit this and we get out of here, I just hit exit. It's flashing. It's going back to the main menu. I haven't seen a lot of that. This is the original Stranger Things table that I used to play from back in the beginning, that I used to play all the time. So this one doesn't have that Dig Dug thing that popped up in the middle of the playfield for God knows what reason. There's the green stuff we were talking about. So you can see it does happen. We're not cutting anything out of this video for everyone claiming that it doesn't happen on them. That doesn't seem possible to me. I mean, I'm using their 8.0, their newest hardware and stuff like that with their, you know, graphics, their newest GPU and stuff. Unless if people are using older, like, than 8.0s, maybe they're having like a 4.0, 5.0, 6.0, 7.0, and that green stuff is only happening on the newer 8.0 machines. I guess that's the possibility. But there's no cutting on here, and you can see exactly what's happening on here. Or mostly I'm not cutting anything. Like I said, I have to cut out some stuff on here, otherwise this video would be stupid. But I'm trying not to cut as much as possible, and you can see this loads, and it loaded up just fine. You have the POVs on here. This one looks fine the way that it's done. This looks amazing on the OLED. There's no doubt about that. These tables look so good. You can see, you know, the back glass and everything looks fine on here for the Stranger Things table. And yeah, so we're going to exit out of that one. So yeah, you can see sometimes, and I also don't like how it flickers black almost every time I hit the exit button. Again, that is not something that usually happens when you're playing the Super VPin drive as a comparison. And we'll talk more about that Super VPin drive at the end. But yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I think a lot of people who get this are probably going to be happy unless if they're well-versed, because some of these things that we're talking about here in this video, maybe some people wouldn't notice. A lot of people who play virtual pinball and get this machine are not going to notice that static bar at the end that we were talking about before. They're not going to notice, you know, the POVs being slightly off unless if you're looking for it. Now, they are going to notice the weird stuff, though. The green flashing thing is not good because everyone's going to notice that and be like, what the hell? That Dig Dug splash thing's popping up on the Stranger Things table is obviously not good. And again, I'm only going off of some tables that I know and like. So if I sat here and played through every single table, I guarantee you, like some other people have, you would find a lot more issues, because obviously in that situation, you're going to find more stuff that can go wrong. You know, there's issues that are going to pop up. The fact that, like, I tried my favorite tables, and there's that green thing again, with this Tron table loading. The fact that, like, Stranger Things is, like, the first thing that I tried, or one of my favorite tables, and that has an issue with, like, the Dig Dug stuff and, like, POVs, and, like, the Ghostbusters crashes being one of my favorite tables, one of those two. You know, and we're just testing the waters on very select few tables that I like personally. Obviously isn't a great start to this stuff, because it shouldn't be that way. And every single time you exit a table, you can see it flashes black every time when you go to a different table, which is not the case. That shouldn't be how it flickers to black every single time. And I'll show you guys that on the other drive here when we get to it. But yeah, like I said, a lot of people have done videos on this when it comes to random things not working or having some issues and stuff. So we're not going to dive deep into every single game that doesn't work. This is just an overview to let you know that, yes, there's definitely some QA stuff that needs to be fixed on this drive. that they definitely didn't fix, that's for sure. So you can see now I have the Ultra VP software 3.0 for the 8.0 model. I took it out, and as you can see here, if I open this up, this is my main Super VPin main drive sitting right here that I have now installed on this machine. And we're going to go ahead and power this up so you guys can take a look at a couple of differences that I will point out. Here it is booting up, getting into Windows. Obviously, there it is, Super VPin that comes up on there as it logs into Windows. It's going to launch into the software here in a second. They both kind of boot pretty quickly as far as like booting into their software and stuff. Obviously, the other one has the main menu that you go to first, where this one boots into, you know, his
Welcome to the ultimate
message.
virtual pinball experience. Please give
But
it a few seconds to get everything.
here you go. So this is his.
Now,
You can go ahead and fast forward through this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll through. So this is the Super VPin drive. Now you can see they have, you know, he has similar menus and stuff like that he's always adding and always changing things, because the biggest difference between these two drives is, of course, the Rec Room World one that we were talking about before. They're supposed to come out with that once a year. Now, granted, this one took 3 years. They're saying that they're going to keep it to a 1 year, so you're going to get a new drive every year from them that you can get updated and formatted from them and blah, blah, blah. So you have the newest tables once a year. The whole point of the Super VPin drive is that you're paying him a monthly cost, but you're paying that monthly cost because he's updating all the tables, he's adding new features, he's updating all the tables, he's updating the back glasses, he's doing a lot of work on these tables. It's not just drag and drop into tables, it's artwork, it's customizing things, it's making his own artwork for things that maybe don't exist because the community hasn't made it. Whatever the case may be, that's all the work that he does. He customizes the POVs specifically tailored for this machine, so it works really well. You have all of that going on this machine. And you get the newest updates every month. So every first of the month, he releases an update to your email. You update the drive really easily, so you have the newest tables every month. So it feels like Christmas every single month, as opposed to waiting once a year or longer for that other drive. Now, depending on who it's for, it depends on you. But he also has a jukebox, and he actually has a big jukebox update coming out this coming month in April. But, you know, he has a bunch of different categories as well. I like the full DMD category, so I know which ones have the full VMD. I have the Pupax one here that I like. But what I wanted to show you here that is most important to me is when you go into these tables, top tables, which is basically the same thing as their top 100 tables. This is the top 150, but same idea. You go into here and you have all of these different tables that are on here that you're scrolling through. And these are actually not, and if you guys paid attention in their other video, the top 100 on the VPin drive, on the Rec Room World drive is not like in order of the best table. It's in alphabetical order, not like in order of like, this is the best table, number 1, number 2, number 3. So it's just alphabetical order. So yes, they're the top 100 tables that are considered the best, but they're in alphabetical order. So it's not truly number 1 that you're looking at. This one is in actual order. As you're seeing, it's not an alphabetical order, it's an actual order of what's considered to be some of the best tables on here in the order that you're seeing them, which is obviously cool. And you can see that there's no duplicates in here. It's the best version of that table. You're not going to see 4 different versions of Ghostbusters in here, or, you know, whatever the case may be. It's going to be exactly how I would want it to be. And there's the Ghostbusters table right there. So that's one of the things that I like, obviously. The other thing on here that it does is that it doesn't have any of the of that green shimmering thing that we talked about, whatever you want to call that green stuff that kind of happens every once in a while. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Stranger Things and stuff, doing the same tables we did before. We'll do some of that. And also the labeling on this is better, because like this Stranger Things orbital pin from 2018 looks like it's supposed to. It has the right back glass, it has the right framework, and then when you go to the 2018 videos edition, you have the video on there. So you have one with just the back glass and then one with the video. So you can see that it's just all done and organized with much more care and into detail. Is that going to bother a lot of people? Because a lot of people are just going to see Stranger Things and be like, I want to play that table, and click it. If you're not into this stuff, then you probably won't notice or even know that that's a thing, especially if you have nothing to compare it to. but it should be better than what it was. It should be more curated and should be more like attention to detail with that stuff. But let's go ahead and open up the 2018 version, which is my favorite one, or this one. Yeah, we'll do the videos one. So we'll open this up. You can see they all have loading screens. They don't have that green gigantic bar in the middle like the other ones did that I hate as this opens up here. And you can see they all have their own custom loading screens. The loading screens all look fantastic on here. And obviously the Rec Room World Drive also has loading screens, but some of them are obviously doing some weird stuff like opening up that. But you can see what he does also is the POVs are completely tailored to be exactly for this table. And that adds to it being positioned perfectly for this Rec Room World's machine, which is really awesome. But yeah, this looks awesome on here. I'm not going to play it or anything. I just wanted to show you it loads and everything. And then when you exit, it goes right back into the main menu. Do you see that? You don't even know you exited the table because the table here and the back glass and stuff looks so close to what you're actually playing like it's supposed to. I didn't even know I exited the game until I realized that I exited the game, because you wouldn't know. Because you're right back into here. It's just way smoother, and it doesn't have those weird glitches where it blacks out for a second and then comes back. And is that the biggest deal in the world to a lot of people? Maybe not, but like when you have something like runs this well, like the Super VPin, and then you go back to the other one, you're going to notice those things. You're going to be like, why is this like this? I know it doesn't have to be, because I have a comparison in my head to know it doesn't have to be that way. So here are the Ghostbusters table that are on here. Here's the 2016 version. Here is the videos one, and you can see the videos one actually shows the video on the back glass like it's supposed to. And then the one that doesn't has this, which again, the other one didn't do. And guess what? This one doesn't crash. This will open up. It has great loading screens. Again, doesn't have that stupid gray bar that you have across here that some of the tables were doing on the other one. It loads perfectly fine. It loads well the way it's supposed to. And again, the custom POVs is what really sets Super VPin's drive apart when it comes to the way he tailor-made to these tables to fit exactly proportioned to where it's supposed to be on here, which looks fantastic on here. It makes these tables look as good as they could possibly look on this machine. So like, again, it's not just adding tables to the drive. He does a lot more than that, stuff that I'm not going to be able to cover completely on this video right now. But it looks awesome on here, again. And there's the back glass, everything the way it should be. Again, look how fast this is. You hit the exit button, boom, you're at the main menu, boom, you're out of there. No flickering black screen, none of that going on, which is great. Now, one of the other ones that I launched before, just for, you know, doing all the same ones, is I also launched the Tron one before, Tron Legacy. So even the Tron Legacy one that I opened up before here, if I open this up, it's got some nice animations again. Looks really good with the loading screens. You got the back glass and everything. You could just tell that Super VPin went through each table, made sure that these loading screens are the best ones that you could possibly find for a screen. Same thing with the back glass, same thing with everything. And everything is formatted correctly. Everything isn't stretched the way it shouldn't be, and it goes to the edges the way it should be. All of that stuff is the way it is. And actually, that just reminded me, look how fast I'm exiting these tables too. Like no weird black screen, no nothing. It just all works really, really well. Now, one of the things I actually forgot to look at that you guys remember me talking about is that Stranger Things table with the way it was weirdly formatted on that other one. So we did one of the Stranger Things tables. We're going to go ahead and do this one, which is the one that had that weird formatting. We're going to go ahead and open this up. And we're going to go ahead and see if it has any of the weird formatting issues on this one. So you can see the table loads here in a second. Love Stranger Things, by the way. But yeah, there's no weird like formatting on the bottom or anything like that. It goes edge to edge the way it's supposed to. No weird stuff going on any of the Stranger Things tables, just like the last one I showed you, just on this one. Boom, I exited that. We're already on to the next very, very quickly. Going on to this version here, we'll launch this one as well with the loading screen. So everything is just much smoother. Again, those black screens aren't there. The weirdness of the green effects happening aren't there. Things go edge to edge. There's not that green thing at the bottom of this like it was on the other table. Things are done proportionally the way that they're supposed to on here, and they don't have any of those weird issues. So it's just a more fleshed out, you know, better system overall. There's no doubt about that. But and yeah, everything on here works the way that it should. And let me go ahead and wrap this up and give you guys my final thoughts. I can ramble on for this for hours, but let's end it here. All right, guys, so that is my final thoughts, or that was my final showcase of both of these, the Rec Room World's 3.0 drive and a little bit of the Super VPin drive that I use as well, just as a comparison's sake. Now, is the Rec Room World Drive 3.0 that they just came out with a piece of shit and nobody should use it? No, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm just going to tell you, if you have somebody who is coming from the 2.5 drive and is going to get the 3.0 drive, and you're probably going to be excited because if you've never had the Super VPin drive and you have nothing else to compare it to, you're going to have a lot more tables to play. And a lot of these small things, like some of these things that I talked about, may not either bother you, you may not care, you may not even notice some of the stuff, but some of the stuff should not have happened. Some of those tables that I showcased here with the, you know, Dig Dug opening up on the Stranger Things table, the green artifacting that's happening on these tables that happens like almost every time, as you guys saw with the editing there. All that stuff obviously should not be happening and is something you're going to notice. Having duplicate tables in the top 100 doesn't seem to make sense to me. Having some of those tables, you know, crash. Ghostbusters being such a popular table that they always talk about. I can't believe that that has an error that like they didn't catch when that's like, sure, there's 2-3 versions on here, but like you would assume that they would test 2 or 3 of those considering that they're in their top 100 and stuff. And it's just the small tables I tested. Like I said, there's 2,100 tables on here. If the handful of tables I tried had issues, and then the other creators out there who made a YouTube video, they have other tables that they found that I didn't talk about in this video that also had their own issues as well. You know, obviously that means that if you play through this machine, you're going to find tables that don't load. We've already found like 7 or 8 based on the community so far of 7 or 8 tables that literally just crash like the Ghostbusters one does. Are all these things fixable if you know what you're doing and getting into Windows? If this was my only drive, the 3.0 drive, and Super VPin didn't exist, I would fix those tables. I would go in there and do what I need to do. But you shouldn't have to is the point, especially for such the high tier tables that everyone plays and everyone loves, like Stranger Things having that Dig Dug or the Ghostbusters crashing out on us. And there's more that are crashing out there too. Like I said, there's like 7 or 8 that another YouTuber talked about. So that's just an example just to give you guys an idea. But that doesn't mean that the whole drive sucks. That doesn't mean that like you guys aren't going to enjoy this because like again, if you have nothing to compare it to and you get this drive for 3.0, you're going to have a lot more tables to play than you had before. And that's awesome. The more tables that we all get to play, the better. You're just going to have to deal with some of those nuances that I showed you here before. Not everything's perfect. Not everything is the way that you would expect it to be after 3 years. And obviously, as they come out with their 4.0 drive in a year, these things that we're all complaining about here are obviously going to get fixed. And they're going to make improvements, and I'm sure it's going to get better. But, you know, after waiting 3 years, this 3.0 obviously should have been nearly flawless. And it obviously is not, which even just my small examples on here. And the worst thing about that is that we didn't get into it in this video because I don't want to get into the drama that a lot of people are talking about. I'll leave that to other people. But the Super VPin drive has always like, you know, he's always thought that they were stealing from his drive. Not the tables, because obviously you can't steal the tables. Those are made by creators and stuff. But it's his work that I talked about. It's him doing the custom POVs on each table specifically and saving them specifically proportioned for this. It's also like he's done custom artwork for VR tables that like VR tables, when you go into VR, they didn't have the custom artwork on some of those tables that he actually created his own. And he put like custom artwork really small on the pictures that you wouldn't notice unless if you were looking for them. And, you know, it's just some of his menu design and stuff, you know, and some of the media that he has that's specifically tailored for his drive and just the way that he does things and stuff and the updates. And it's funny how like, I didn't do it in this video, but other people have, that you actually found some of that stuff on the Rec Room World's 3.0 drive. You actually found some of his updates sitting, like his PDF files, sitting on that drive right in the documents folder, which is hilarious. You found those pictures from VR sitting on the Rec Room World drive, which is crazy because that means that they took his VR tables and put it on this drive, because VR was one of the main things that they added to the 3.0 drive that, you know, we didn't talk too much about on this video, but that is a huge thing that people are going to love because I love VR. You guys know that on this channel. So it's awesome that you guys have it and you can play it on the Rec Room World 3.0 drive now, and you're going to have a lot of fun doing that. But it is crazy that they just straight up took his artwork and, you know, kind of imported it. And they took more than just that, but I'm just telling you some of the examples on here. So I'm not getting into all that. That's for them to decide and figure out like how much they took and what they didn't take. In my personal opinion, and this is my opinion, not of anybody else's, I think they should just figure out how to work with Super VPin. He's already making the greatest drive that you can have for this machine. If they can figure out a partnership on how to make it work with the both of them, where everybody who gets a new machine from Rec Room World gets the Super VPin drive, you're going to have the best hardware and the best VPin in the game, in my opinion, with the best software made by Super VPin, and it's the best combo, and then everybody wins. And then basically what they can do, like, yes, there's a monthly subscription with Super VPin. We know that. I talked about it. But if someone gets a Rec Room World machine and they just get the latest version of the drive, the same way they're sending out the 3.0 right now, they get the latest version of whatever Super VPin has done up to that month. Then after that, if they want to continue getting updates and stuff like that each and every month, then they have to pay. And they have to pay a certain amount, like per month. Or if they only want to do it once a year, then they pay a per year price instead, whatever the case may be. Or if they never want to pay again and they just care about having the latest at that point, because some people are like that. They got 2,200 tables. They don't care about getting the newest ones. They'll have tables for a lifetime. And if they don't care, then they just buy the drive once when they buy the Rec Room World machine, and they're done. And that's it. But I don't know why they're competing against each other. The Rec Room World should just swallow their pride and get that drive working, get a partnership going, because everybody wins in that situation, in my opinion. And then they don't have to worry about getting that drive and working with third-party developers that they work with, apparently, and blah, blah, blah. So that's what I think they should do. But like I said, I think the 3.0 drive is going to serve customers. It is going to be good for some people. They are going to run into issues like we talked about. But overall, I think most of those people are going to be happy because they're not as crazy as we are. We have a lot of comparisons, and we know how much better it could be when you compare it to something like the Super VPin drive. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not great, and they should have caught some of these issues, and some of them are just not good. And the fact that we're finding some files on there from Super VPin that they seem to have copied some stuff is also not a good look as well, and that they obviously missed to delete, which is not good. But, you know, it is what it is. I'm obviously never going to use the 3.0 drive anymore because the Super VPin drive is better, and that's something I've been using for a while. I'm not going to delete the drive or not get rid of it. I'll still keep it around, and I'll keep following them along with their drives and see how they go. But obviously, I don't have a use for using their drive when I have the Super VPin drive, because I pay for it, and I pay him per month to get those, because I'm impatient. I don't want to wait a year. Even if this 3.0 drive was perfect and it had none of these issues that we talked about, it still wouldn't be my main drive for me personally to use, because I like having the newest tables every month, and I'll gladly pay him the monthly subscription to get all that done for me and update all the tables, the pin-up popper, visual pinball, getting me the new POVs, updating all the backglass, updating everything for me, and I don't have to scour the internet for hours and hours throughout the month, keeping up with it. I'm impatient. I want to play those tables when they come out, when people are talking about them, and not wait a whole year plus. So even if everything was perfect, I'd still be using the Super VPin drive. But depending on who you are and what you want, if you are not a person who cares about getting the newest updates all the time, if you don't want to pay a monthly subscription and stuff like that, and you just care about having the best tables now, then the 3.0 drive may serve you. As long as you're aware that you're going to run into these weird issues, and you may have to get your hands dirty and fix some of these tables, unfortunately, because of the issues that they're having. And we didn't even get into some of the other issues that they had to release a video on how to fix. The handful of people who have gotten this have already, not everyone has gotten the 3.0 drive yet. There's a possibility that some of these issues that we're talking about in today's video, maybe when they start sending these drives out to more and more people in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, because a lot of people are still missing it. They're sending them in batches. They may be seeing some of these videos and me complaining about some of this stuff and the other YouTubers, and they're actually going in and fixing them before they send out the drive to other people. That's also a possibility. Whether they do that or not, who knows? But if they don't, you're going to be stuck with all these issues until the next year's update comes out, whenever that may be, when 4.0 releases. But I think that's all there is to say. I think this serves some people. If you want to use it, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with a lot of new tables. You have your VR stuff now, which is crazy and awesome, and you can get into that. And but if you want the best of the best for this machine, it's definitely the Super VPin drive. But if you don't care about having the newest updates, and you don't care about some of the stuff I talked about on here, or you think you can get over it, and you can fix some of the tables if you run into one or two that are crashing that you like as a favorite, then hey, you're good, and you can use the tables and still have a ton of fun. So, but that is everything I wanted to talk about here to set the record straight. No, nobody is lying. There are issues with this drive. Other people who are saying that they are not getting that green screen doesn't make any sense, especially if you have the 8.0, because that's definitely there. Some of the tables crashing is obviously a thing. The Dig Dug thing popping up is obviously hilarious. So all those things are actually happening. There are issues with the drive. Is it like the worst drive ever and it's not usable? No, it's obviously usable, but there are some quirks and there shouldn't have been, and we all wish it would have been a little bit better. But hey, maybe because we complained about it on these videos, the next people who get these drives in the next month or two, maybe they're going in there and fixing some of this stuff so people stop complaining. Hopefully that's what I would do if I were them instead of waiting to the 4.0, but maybe they won't, who knows. Either way, that's everything, guys. If you guys have any questions about anything you guys have seen, as always, leave them down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Until next time.